We're going to get to our McNugget 5-pack of stats, and today that's brought to us by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay red hot on FanDuel, and right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and an official partner of the NFL. Guys, I got a 5-pack for you guys, some offense, some defense, and a little CJ Beathard. Are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
Let's start with letting Joe Flacco cook. Against the Rams, Flacco, and this is from PFF, threw in a tight window coverage on 18.3% of his passes against LA. That was the 8th highest tight window percentage of any quarterback who started last week.
I didn't realize they kept that stat week to week.
They do. It's very, very interesting. He only had one turnover-worthy throw, which was the interception. So
that's it.
He did throw into tight windows. They were usually pretty accurate. He also attempted 19 passes of 10 or more air yards. That's the most of any quarterback in the Stefanski era. So they let it rip.
Wow.
They let it fly, and Flacco throws the arm talent. On those 10-plus yard air passes, he was 8 of 19, 145 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And why does that matter? Here's where it matters. Jake Browning against Jacksonville on Monday Night Football on passes of 10-plus air yards, 7 of 7, 170 yards, and a touchdown.
That's a home run stat, Mike. That really is. That's a stat that's next level that most people have overlooked.
And put that back up there. As I watched all 22 from this week, and one of the things that really stood out to me was the difference between what the Rams do and what the Browns do. You look at 18.3 tight window throws. The Rams get so much cheap garbage on motion plays where there's nobody around because you're running guys across the line of scrimmage, you're moving guys around. They do a lot with motion. It's hard to cover up. The Browns are not a team that usually uses motion like that, and it just seems like they don't have any like even the 4th down play with David Njoku. It's just a 5-yard sit-down route. People are on that. The Browns run like 6 or 7 plays, right? And they mix up the variations, but they're not multiple in what they do. So a lot of their throws are going to be tight window because the defense knows their tendencies when it comes to it. So I would expect that to be high the rest of the year.
Mike, before you do number 2, can I ask you how your perception of the game changed after you viewed the All-22?
I looked at it. I thought the defense played when you watch it, it just looked like they were off, didn't really have any enthusiasm.
What about offensively?
Defensively, I thought the Rams just had a great game plan. I love the game plan. Offensively, when I watched it, it made me respect Joe Flacco even more because they're not running anything that's crazy. I had respect because he was fitting footballs in windows that are like this small, over top of a linebacker, in front of a safety. And I'm like, wow, they're not running anything. They're just running stick plays and high-low plays, trying to isolate high-low defenders with linebackers, but they're not running anything crazy. And so for them to be able to move the ball up the field, even though the Rams knew what they were going to run, because there was a couple times they just flat out jumped the routes. They just knew what it was. So I had a more respect for Joe Flacco and what they were trying to do. And hopefully the vanilla playbook turns out to be basically
part of it is that the Browns don't have great athletes at receiver either.
He just got here.
Yeah,
That's a lot to do with it.
And so hopefully there's some more, they expound upon it.
Also, I think the Bengals' success against Jacksonville on those plus 10 throws, it speaks to the fact that, A, they needed to do that, and also their athletes at wide receiver are just better downfield.
They had a lot of yak yards in that 170, but still, 7 of 7.
But it's 7 of 7, and that's the number that jumps out.
Yeah. By the way, if Jamar Chase has one more touchdown, I think he's going to – I got to give this stat. I thought this was an interesting stat. That if he has one more touchdown, he's going to become just the 4th wide receiver ever to have 3,500 receiving yards and 30 touchdowns after their first 3 seasons.
Yeah, he's good.
Who are the other 3? Do you guys want to know? Yes?
Randy Moss do it?
What's one? They're all names you'd expect.
Rice.
Rice is 2.
T.O. had a good start to his
Not
career.
T.O.
Not?
Fitzgerald?
Nope.
Odell Beckham Jr.
Odell Beckham
Yeah,
Jr.
Odell.
I was surprised Justin Jefferson. He must not have had the 30 touchdowns.
See, if the Bengals ain't sneaky, that ain't a gimme win either. That's why I'm circling this one. I saw y'all. I saw y'all Monday. Y'all ain't done yet.
Yeah, that's true.
They ain't done yet.
And I said, although he could play lousy, but if they
will
beat
be
the
by
Colts
week 18.
this week.
They will be by week 18.
I hope so. I'm a hater.
Wow. Old. Dang.
The Bengals will be out of it by week 18.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Not if
So
they beat
you
the
don't
Colts
think
this week.
you don't think that Jake Browning's performance is he can be duplicated?
I'm not convinced it is.
I'm not. No.
If he
not
doesn't-
at that level, but if he plays anywhere
if
near
he
that
plays
level.
really well again this week against Indy, then I might believe more. But
Yeah.
All right.
All right, number 2, Joe Flacco in Cleveland. I just went back and wanted to see his career stats when he was playing teams as the road opponent in Cleveland, and
Right.
Flacco did pretty damn well here in Cleveland. A career 9-2 record, 8-2 with the Ravens, 1-0 with the Jets. That's an 82% win percentage. Threw for 2,500 yards, 225 per game, 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And the last time he played in Cleveland was that last year's game with the Jets.
Sure.
307, 4 touchdowns. Interesting, he has a great record in Cleveland. The Jaguars are 5-0 on the road. They've won 8 straight road games. So
Right.
something's got to give between Joe's record in Cleveland and the Jaguars' hot streak on the road.
Jacksonville, it's really hard to explain what they've done. They've
but
been
again, it's
bad
5-0
at
with
home
Trevor Lawrence.
and great on the road.
McNuggets, if that dude comes anything close to 307 and 4 touchdowns,
It's a win.
and this year, he's getting a statue. This year, they'll take it down next year.
Oh my God, 307 and 4
It's like one of them
touchdowns.
Halloween costume stores. They be up for like a month and they be gone.
307 and 4 touchdowns are cartoon numbers today.
Right. Oh,
Nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
do you know what my knees would be doing? Oh my God, Joe Flacco! Joe Flacco!
Sign him long term.
All right, number 3. This one may be my favorite and most fascinating, or not favorite, but the most fascinating to me. The Browns' defense this year at home versus on the road has been completely different. 2 totally different teams. They played 6 games at home, 6 games on the road. They've given up 64 points at home. That's 10.67 points per game. They get up 184 points on the road. That's 30.7. At home, their EPA, which I know you said you didn't like EPA, but
Right.
they have a negative 0.322 EPA. That's the best mark they've ever seen in the NFL. The best ever.
Ever?
Ever.
For
Just at home. Those 6 home performances. On the road, it's a 0.036 negative EPA. That'd be the 12th best this season. They go from being okay on the road to the greatest of all time. And you look at the quarterbacks they've played. I put their initials up there. But Burrow, Tannehill, Lamar, Purdy, Clayton Tune, and Kenny Pickett at home. Pickett, Minshew, Geno Smith, Lamar, Russell Wilson, Stafford on the road. It's a little bit of a split. They've gotten a little easier schedule breaks at home for sure with the Clayton Tune in there. But
Not a little, a
the
lot.
home versus road split between this defense, and a lot of it is who you play and when you play them. But
That's
we're
still
talking
stunning.
astronomical difference.
you're giving up
Who's
10 at
VP
home
again?
and 30 on the road.
Who's who?
Oh, BP was Brock Purdy.
VP Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's incredible.
How do you explain it? I mean, home crowd usually they say is worth 3 points.
I think it has a lot to
There's
do.
a 20-point disparity.
Nah, I think it has.
Schedule.
I think some of it's coincidence, schedule,
They got
injuries.
San Fran at home.
Yeah, but the last 2 weeks they have had an injured Myles Garrett and no Denzel Ward, and that's where were they before the last 2 weeks on the road? It
I'd have
wasn't
to go
nearly
back.
that
I'd have to go
bad.
back and dig into that.
I mean,
I'd have
Minshew
to-
cut him up pretty good at Indy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
he did.
That's true. Fair.
So
Man, that's a huge disparity, and
crazy.
that could be a real problem because they're not going to play a home playoff game.
When I watch all 20, I'm trying to figure out what their assignments are. Like these jet motion plays where guys is getting 40 yards before somebody touching them. It just seems like the defensive ends are like confused.
Do
like,
you know, are they passing on? Tyvis talked about this a little yesterday. Are they passing off the motion man? Because he did say that, that's an option.
Yes.
That you can pass him off, but when you pass him off, that makes everything much more difficult.
Yes, they look like they're following the guy. That's why you see Newsome stopping and starting and running around.
Right.
And then when you run and give him the handoff, it's the defensive end is just crashing down.
And the follow guy is already behind.
Yeah, and so you take a step down, the guy's already there. I'm trying to figure out what assignment football, because usually a defensive end has us, but we talked about it, right? When you rewind the whole thing and you go back to the summer, I said Jim Schwartz has defensive ends that don't necessarily have to contain.
He didn't prioritize containment.
He gives people a little.
And gee, that has manifested itself this year.
And you see
those
it.
long plays, I think, are a product of that.
Yeah, because
So maybe his defense is just going to be susceptible to those no matter what. And it's like the analogy in baseball. Are the home runs a fair trade-off for all the strikeouts?
Yeah.
Or in Anthony Rizzo's case, hitting 199 but 40 home runs.
Yeah.
You take your poison with the batting average, but you can win on the home runs.
But if Myles Garrett ain't getting home, if Zadarius Smith ain't getting home,
then the trade-off isn't worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, next up, and before we do the next one, Amari Cooper did not clear protocol yet.
Ooh.
He has to finish that, so he did practice, but not officially out. That's according to Mary Kay. And also, Jason will be texting during the game this weekend, so if you're a member, you get those extra text updates. All right, McNuggets stat number 4. Without Denzel Ward, the Browns have played a lot more cover 2. And they have not been good in cover 2 defense. Last week against L.A., Matt Stafford eviscerated the Browns defense in cover 2. He was 4 for 5, 102 yards in that touchdown to Puka Nacua across the middle against an inverted cover 2. I went back to see how some other teams fared against Browns playing cover 2 defense. I went to the Pittsburgh game because Kenny Pickett sucks. They played Matt Canada twice. Those numbers shouldn't be good because they shouldn't be good against anybody. Well, Pickett was at his best, 11 for 16, 160 yards in that touchdown against cover 2 defense. They didn't blitz Stafford either, which I know you guys mentioned earlier.
And
against
that changes
just
it.
4 rushers on Sunday, Stafford's EPA was a positive .28. That's pretty good. It's not great, but pretty good. When they did blitz, his EPA dropped to almost an entire -1.
Well, that's the case
Minus
with every
0.1.
quarterback.
Yes, but it's usually not that drastic of a
No,
drop-off.
that's probably
They
a
blitz-
bigger swing than normal.
Jim Schwartz only blitzed on 18% of his dropbacks.
Right.
Only brought 5 on 18%.
And also, I think, Mike, it changes when the other play caller understands that blitzes aren't coming.
yeah.
What is the percentage, Mike? Do you happen to know the percentage? Like, have the Browns been blitzing less with
Yes.
Denzel Ward out?
Yes.
Well, dramatically less by my eyes.
They are, I mean, I can find the exact number. Give me 1 sec, but they're in the bottom 10 percentile of blitz rate. They're still good pressure because they do get a lot.
They get home with 4
But
typically,
in
but
the
they
last
weren't
2
Sunday.
weeks, they haven't been.
Right.
And he hasn't blitzed a ton more, Bull, without the pressure from up front.
No,
He's
but
just
I
been
think what
getting
Bull's
way less
asking
pressure.
is, again, just eye test without looking
Yeah.
at numbers. It feels to me like with no Denzel on the field,
Right.
he's rolling the dice even less.
Right,
Yeah.
which, and maybe it just seems that way because they're not pressuring the quarterback because Miles is not healthy, and maybe if they were pressuring the quarterback more, it wouldn't
No,
seem
that's
that way.
true. Yeah.
I don't know, but
And there could be times where they're sending 5, but we're missing it because no one's getting home.
Right. Listen, the bottom line is we can talk about what they're doing. The rest of that defensive line is not doing their job
They're
well
not.
enough right now.
No, they're not.
That's the bottom line.
there was a play where Juan Thornhill, remember they had the play where they got false starts 3 times in a row?
Yeah.
And it was like 3rd and 20-something. They gave up the big play. They were running cover 6. Juan Thornhill on the front side of the play had one receiver route, and his job as in cover 2 is to get over the top, and he let a receiver just run a corner route. And it was like, you have him, right? And I think a lot of times when you start running man-to-man coverage, you can play fast. It's easy. I know who I got. Now, when you're not used to passing stuff off, when you got to figure out who's passing it from the front of the coverage to the back of the coverage, then you got areas where you can break down.
You're adding elements, communication, everything else.
And they're not a good team in terms of zone because they don't run it that much.
All right.
Bull, I can't tell you exactly where they ranked, but last week, 18% blitz percentage, their lowest of the season. So,
yeah, I mean, I would
Partly
hope that
Stafford.
changes with Denzel Ward back.
And I would
think,
expect it to.
right?
Yeah,
But,
I would expect it to, especially with their best receiver or one of their best receivers off the field and perhaps a backup quarterback. Like, that's an invitation to bring the house.
Right.
Let's go.
and speaking of backups, I made this one assuming Beathard would start. I didn't think there'd be any chance Lawrence would play. Maybe
Right.
he does, but if it is Beathard, here's what you need to know about CJ Beathard. He's 2-10 in his career as a starting quarterback. 18 touchdowns, 22 turnovers, 14 picks, 8 fumbles. On the road, he's been a little better than he's been at home, which this will be a road game. But in December, he's been at his best. However, in outdoor stadiums, he's got 19 turnovers. He's a warm weather quarterback, even though he's from Iowa. And hopefully, if the elements are in full force, that definitely favors Joe
It's going
Flacco.
to be windy and
I don't
cold
think
and
he's
rainy.
particularly good in any situation.
Yeah.
That's
That
why
is true,
Jacksonville's
but
trying so
extra
hard to
bad.
get Lawrence
I think
out
what
there.
Mikey was saying,
right
if
there.
you squint real hard,
Yeah, right.
some of these numbers look okay.
Yeah.